I would like to next is to announce our World Community Service Community. That's like, what? World Community Service Community? That doesn't sound quite right. I'm sure Shari will get the name right, what the WCSC is, but we think of it as the international organization that she has a passion that she's been doing for the last, well, about 5 years now or more that she's been involved with it. And she's been a great leader. I mean, not only getting out boots on the ground, but when it comes to organizing, well, we've got about 15 of us that meet. And to, you know, there's so many worthwhile projects that I'll let her talk more about, but her project leadership with a lot of style is one that we should admire and aspire to be as well. So without further ado, let's have Shari Ranney come up and talk to us about WCSC. Do you want to be on the run, or do you want to be a fixed target? Okay, there you go. And here is your clicker when you're ready. I'll get that going in just a second.
I also need to introduce my co-chair here, who didn't turn in his bio, didn't give a picture, so he's sitting in the back of the room, and I can't even fake a bio for you. Anyway, Michael Caruana is going to also help in this presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so as Michael started, Petaluma Rotary World Community Service Committee, WCSC. Past, present, and future, that's the title of our program here. And as Michael mentioned, I got involved about 5 years ago. I've been in Rotary for I think 8 years. And about 5 years ago, I kind of understood this international picture, and it's taken this long to really understand it, because it's a process that you go through understanding all this. And Jim Becker was a great leader in helping. He's super involved in the international scene. And I think what's happened over the last 5 years is we've really developed a powerful committee of interested and engaged individuals in the club to do some great decision making. So I'm going to go ahead and start here, and then I'll hand it to you in a few minutes. I thought I'd start off by ringing the bell. Sorry.
I think that was Donna Summers, Ring Your Bell. Was that the disco era? Let's see where we're going.
So I wanted to start with an introduction about what the global grants are, which is a big part of the committee's work, is evaluating and helping to fund and contribute to global grants. And for the benefit of some of the newer Rotarians in the room, there's quite a few of them, thank goodness, which is awesome. I thought I'm going to go kind of quickly. There's a lot of writing on these, but this is
okay, give it a try.
Now. Is this not on?
We're going to go to plan B. I think if you hold it this way. That.
I was going backwards, and there isn't a backwards. That's
Get back from China now. We got to have things right side up on the right side. The button is worn out. There we go.
I got it. Okay. Now we're rolling. Okay. So what is a global grant? GG for short. They are projects that support large international activities with sustainable, measurable outcomes in Rotary's areas of focus. And they typically are in third world or developing type countries, and the funding comes typically from developed type countries. And by working together to respond to real community needs, clubs and districts strengthen global relationships. So there's a social aspect to it for sure. So the 6 areas of focus with RI are promoting peace, fighting disease, providing clean water, sanitation and hygiene, or WASH, saving mothers and children, supporting education, and growing local communities. So a global grant must fall under one of these focus areas in order to be considered. They must be sustainable and include plans for long-term success. Historically, if you go back past 5 years, before these new criteria were established, people would go into a country and do a project because they thought that country needed that project. So it wasn't the onus, the impetus for it did not start at the project site. It started from Rotarians here saying, hey, you need clean water, I'm going to give you clean water. And there wasn't a requirement to build in who's going to change the filters and to sustain it. So oftentimes Rotarians would go back to visit a year or two later, and the pump is sitting there broken, and unusable, and the people are back to getting their water from the bucket, from the dirty creeks. So anyway, so sustainability has become a big issue, and I think they've mastered it. It's a requirement. Measurable goals, and then we talked about the areas of focus. Responding to meet real community needs. And as of July 1st of last year, any club or district applying for the global grant for a humanitarian project or vocational training must first conduct a community assessment in that region. And the findings of that are evaluated to see if it's worthy of a project. Global grants must actively involve Rotarians and community members. Now, this is the other thing that people don't really understand. Most of these global grants in third world countries, say in Central America or in Guatemala, the boots on the ground work is not done by us going over there and spending a week necessarily. It could be, but that's not kind of the focus. More the focus is to have the native people, the population there do the work, supply the goods if they can. So it's more of a guidance issue from the international partners, us, and most of the work is done by the people in the country. Okay, and I'm going to touch on this. I know we've talked about this before, but one of the beauties of global grants is that the matching powers of money with the district, 5130, and then RI. So for every dollar of club cash that we decide to contribute towards a project, it ends up turning into $3.50 of real cash for the project. So I'm not going to go into the details of the math because it's a little complicated, but it's powerful. This is why global grants are really good. You get a lot done by leveraging your cash. The minimum grant size is $30,000, and actually RI prefers that you have a $200,000 plus grant because they do the same amount of administration, whether it's a $30,000 or a $200,000 grant, so they just assume have bigger grants. So oftentimes if somebody was going to submit a smaller one, they would suggest enhancing it or combining it with another one so that you have a larger dollar amount to deal with. Okay, and then how do you find these projects? So there are 15 or so people on our committee, and some of us do travel to go to project fairs, or international conventions. There's plenty of opportunities to join in with the existing global grant. One of the other points I wanted to make, and I think this has always been a question in the club, we are very, very fortunate in our club that our president allocates money towards our international committee. We also do other things to earn money, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but we are lucky that we are essentially given a budget at the beginning of the year and are tasked with responsibly allocating that money out. So we would look at projects at fairs like this, for example, and evaluate them. Again, going back to my point is that anytime a Rotarian here travels to the convention, the RI convention, or to a project fair, or whatever, it is on our own dime. The club is not paying for any of that, unless you're president. So if you want to be president, check and see where the international convention is going to be the year, and then that's how you plan what year you want to say, hey, I want to be president. Right, Ann? Where's your year?
2020.
2020. So we are at Honolulu, okay. So she planned that based on the location of the RI convention.
Had no idea, really, had no idea.
I know, that, it's good to say, right? So because a lot of people, I don't want to be president, I don't want to be president. Well, the next question is, where's the RI convention that year? Maybe I will be president. So, something to check out. Okay. Also, our regular District 5130 conference, which is going to be held in Reno in May this year, is also a wonderful place to collaborate with other districts or other clubs within the districts and people that are already working on projects and seeing if you want to work together. Collaboration within clubs and within districts is cool. And then collaborating with other Rotarians. So these are some of the Valley folk that were in Atlanta. And we kind of got to know people a little more, including Joe Martin. Now, let's talk about what our specific committee has done, our club has done in the past. I'm going to hand over the mic to Mike.
Thank you, Shari. What we see here is actually a jungle school in north of Chiang Mai in Thailand. where we went and visited these schools at the behest of a friend of mine who used to live in Seal Beach and decided he wanted to live in Shanghai. And so you go about an hour and a half north towards the Myanmar border, and you find these schools in the jungle, and these kids are sitting on the floor writing. And the reason being is they had no chairs and they had no desks. So we did a district grant, and those chairs and those desks are what are a result of us using the local community to build those chairs and desks. So we had a double whammy. We not only helped the local community to build these, so kids now, year after year, have a desk and a chair to sit on. Yeah, so this was their dormitory, built by a Dutch lady, which is basically a cinder block building, and this is where they could sleep. Because these kids sometimes had to walk a half a day to get to school, so the parents would not send them to school unless they could stay there. So she created a dormitory, and what we did then is create, again, through the local community, built them bunk beds. So not only did they not have to sleep on the floor, but we doubled the number of sleeping areas for the kids. So inherently, it doubled the number of kids that we get educated. And so, yeah, and so this was their kitchen, which was what you and I would consider a little camp stove. And what we did is, through the help of the lady from Holland, I wish I could remember her name right now, but it's been 10 years. Anyway, she built an entire building for them, and we put in propane stoves, put in cupboards, dishes, actual, it looked like a, yeah, so this is the kitchen, you know, this is near the equator, so it's very hot all the time, so the kitchen consisted of a building that was more or less mosquito proof, and a roof to stop all the rain from coming in, and then we had cupboards in there and dishes. They had a regular place to eat. This is what their classroom before we had them in those desks and chairs. And believe it or not, those kids were perfectly happy to sing on the floor and writing. They didn't know any better. So when we talk about our school districts and the fact that we had to walk over potholes to get there first, it kind of makes you feel embarrassed when you go there and you see these kids that walk in the jungle by themselves for a half a day to get to where they could sit on the floor. And this was one of the villagers. She and I were madly in love. She decided I was too old for her. And I thought she was perfect for me. She had exactly the right number of teeth. But it gives you a little bit of flavor. We weren't in some big metropolis city. Actually, a jungle village. And she never accepted my proposal.
Thank you. Awesome. I want to turn the mic over to Onita for a few more words on the history of international projects and involvement within the club here.
Well, when I first joined Rotary, we didn't have any international projects. I don't even think we had an international committee. We didn't contribute any dollars internationally. And the year Henry Hansel was president, he said to the board, and I was lucky enough to be on that board, we need to join the rest of our Rotary clubs. We're a great community Rotary club, and I'm sure we can all say the day that we know we became a community Rotarian and what we did and when that light went on. But we hadn't done anything internationally, and we hadn't had any involvement with our mothership, which is international. So he set aside a very small portion of his budget that year to start international projects. And it has grown now, and now the presidents all put a percentage into their budgets to support our international projects. And I was lucky enough to go to Thailand, and we did water projects over there. Judy went, Gail went, Sally went. We had a fabulous 16-day trip. And that's when I became an international Rotarian. You just don't understand the third world country until you've seen it and been there. And I'm very proud of where we've come, and very proud of Shari and Mike and the International Committee, so thank you.
Thank you. One more. And I know a lot of people can't go on these trips for various reasons, either other commitments or financial or physical or whatever. There's a lot of reasons why you can't travel internationally, but that was why I wanted to include some of the other slides, that you can still be part of the committee, you can still care about the rest of the world, and you can actively participate by collaborating with other Rotarians. There's a lot of international activity in our district amongst the clubs. If you did go to the district conference, which is fairly local. So you can still be involved if you wish. Okay, we're moving to the present. So on the present, I'm going to say one thing first about this colorful but not very sophisticated spreadsheet that I put on the tables if you want to take a peek at it. I thought it was time to finally get our arms around all the global grants or like similar projects that we have done in the past within this club, and then all the ones that we are committed to right now. We have a lot of funds that are promised to certain projects that haven't materialized yet. It takes a while to get the projects going. So the first thing, the leader of the project would solicit promises from all the clubs. So we promised a lot of money. So when we have promised it, we set it aside and consider that we've already spent it, even though we really haven't. And you can see some of the dollar figures that we work with as well. The pink coding, I just went through just for curiosity to tell areas of the world, or the color coding. So the first one, which is kind of pink, is Central America. So we've had a couple projects there in Central, a couple current projects, which is what I'm going to focus on next. The blue is Asia, the green is Central America, purple is Africa. So you can kind of see where we've been in the world, which I just thought was an interesting little exercise. I also added a column on here that says RI area of focus. So of the 6 areas that we spoke of, kind of the areas that these projects fell into, and so what we completed, what we haven't. So again, this is a lot of information, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just FYI, if you want to talk about it later, I'm happy to do so. So present. So we recently were very fortunate, Gail and Josephine and Janet said and myself, to go on a summit program to Guatemala. And there's some gentlemen that we met the previous year at the police conference, project fair. Michael Caruana was there as well. And we met some of these Rotarians that were brilliant. And they were doing amazing things in Guatemala. So kept talking to them, and they talked us into going over for a 9-day summit. And it was awesome. These guys were intelligent, and they are very, very passionate about Guatemala, particularly WASH, or Water Area Sanitation and Hygiene projects, as well as economic development with Mining, Power, and Light. So this is the lake. This is Lake Atitlan, which all of these projects are centered around. And I think I did a little bit on this before, but it's a beautiful lake. It's at elevation 6,000. It is surrounded by volcanoes, and it was beautiful. It's still beautiful, but it's highly polluted right now, to the point that they keep having cyanobacteria blooms that are toxic to wildlife and people, and a lot of other things. And the reason for that is there's 400,000 indigenous Mayan folk that live in small villages around the watershed here of the lake who have no power, no electricity, no flushing toilets, and no clean water. So basically, as I say, they drink, they poop, and then they drink from the same water. It all flows in, and then they drink out of it. So a lot of these projects are education, and the guys have decided, working with all the local governments and also adding some PhD level thought processes to all that, decided that the best approach is to attack a village at a time, or 2 or 3 villages at a time. So they've done a project creating toilets, toilets and proper septic tanks and clean wells with filters for clean drinking water. So they've done 3 villages. There's a whole lot more to do. We're going to be involved in phase 2, which will be 3 more villages up here. Let's see where we're at. And these are the kids that are really going to benefit for this. So we went to several different schools as part of this summit meeting, and schools where they have, some of the schools they'd already put in a septic system and a well, and so they're going to check on that. And other ones, they were looking for location where they were going to put these facilities in. It was really cool. And these children are loving, they'll come up and hug you. Many of them are very malnourished. They're very small in stature. I mean, Mayan folk in general, as a culture, they're kind of shorter stature, but these kids were tiny. Some of them were very tiny. So there's different nutrition programs and all that, trying to educate them and help hope for a better future. So I mentioned the lack of electricity. So if you picture now you're in one of these villages, your living quarters are pretty crude. It's a bit of a shack with a corrugated metal kind of roof. And when the sun goes down and there's no more light, they have light, they have candles. So they work by candlelight, and if any of you have seen some of the amazing weaving that the women do in these Central American countries, Guatemala's amazing for its weaving. So after the sun goes down, they need to be doing it by candlelight, or the kids doing homework, or whatever projects, it's candlelight. And as you can tell, that's not very effective. Also, interesting fact, cell service is spectacular throughout these highlands, everywhere. The cell reception is way better than in my living room. It's everywhere. There are cell towers everywhere. And that's how they communicate. They don't have any wired phones, they don't have any electricity. Everybody has a cell phone. Not necessarily a smartphone, but at least a cell phone, and they call each other. That's how they communicate. So they have no electricity to charge these phones. So typically what would happen is one of the school kids would be out of school for the day, collect up all the phones for the village, get to wherever there is a charging station, spend the day charging the phones, and bring them back. It's a critical part of their culture. It really is important for them to have that communication. So this gentleman in the picture is John Berry, who's a Ann Arbor, Michigan resident, but also a member of the E-Club of Lake Atilan in Rotary. So they have an E-Club, so people actually dial in from all over the world to attend their meetings. So he goes over there several months a year and then stays in Ann Arbor the rest of the time. He's a professor. And his company is called, his nonprofit is called Elaborate Technology Collective. Appropriate Technology Collective. Anyways, so we went around the bus for a few days with this guy, a van, and he just comes up with all these ideas. So one of them was how to use solar power. This is a great place for solar power. There's lots of sun, they're high up in the mountains. So what he created is a program called Mayan Power and Light, and it is a global grant that we are going to be participating in coming up. And we did an afternoon session with the people on boots on the ground there that run this. So what they do is they they start with a whole bunch of young Mayan women that want to participate. And then when they weed them all out, they end up with about 12 really good participants. The ones that are smart enough, ones that are motivated enough, ones that their families will allow them to be part of this program. And they are taught business incubation skills, how to start and run a business. They are taught carpentry and electric circuitry and salesmanship. So they're taught all these skills, and they are given, they're not given, they have to buy kits. Let's go first. And then they go around and install solar panels. So if you ignore the candle right now, instead we look at that amount of light that the home could have all night long from a solar panel. So here is the solar panel. And it will power these 4 LED lights for 6 hours. It powers a little lithium battery here, pretty lightweight. There's also a phone or a USB port that has 5 different kinds of cell phone chargers on the end of it. So this little kit here costs about $120 US, and they are made in China because that's the only place you can make them inexpensively enough to be practical. And when they sell these things, this changes the whole family dynamic. And most of them want to have separate rooms in their house, so they want 4 bulbs. So they're very, very long, long spaghetti that goes to each bulb, and so they would tack them up and have 1 bulb in each room. And you can turn each bulb off if you want to. So basically, this is a bit of a life changer for the people in the community there. So this is one of the things that they're doing with that.
The Hawaiian women, are they selling it to all over? Is that what they're doing?
Yeah. Oh, so the economic impact of that. Yeah, they buy them and then they sell them. They are selling. They're going door to door and trying to sell these things. And the difference is when a family is relying on candlelight for their light, the crossover is just a couple of months out for the initial investment to buy the solar panel. A couple months out, they've already saved. Once they have it, there's no further cost, and then they can stop buying candles. So over a 6-month period, they come out way ahead. Over a year, more so. So it's also economically a real boon to the family as well. So here's us. There's Joe on the right. They were teaching us how to put these things together, how to build an electric circuit panel or a solar circuit panel. They're pretty advanced there. And this is Janet Seddon from Valley Club. She finally got her light going, and it's really awesome. And she was going to be the lead on this project, but that may be changing, but it's all good. We're ready to get to that piece. Then I couldn't get the video going, Gail. But anytime you go on a trip like this, of course, there's a little fun mixed in. So we went to go visit this wonderful guy who has a property. It's called Opal House, and it's a place for women and children that have been abandoned or that are too poor to come stay. He has is it a Montessori or a Waldorf school? Montessori school on the premise. They're up to 6th grade. They built the school from everything that they found on the land. It's this beautiful building. They have a zip line for the kids to play on. There's so many innovative things going on. Also, Dr. Will does orthopedic surgeries on kids in really, really poor rural Guatemala. He set up a surgery center and he does these surgeries. And I just met another, I haven't actually met, but online met a Rotarian from the Novato Club who just went over there on a mission working with Dr. Will and photographing all these surgeries. So I got this little, all these pictures, it's amazing. So anyway, Gail volunteered to try out the zip line. There's a video, but I could not get it to work on. Okay. Another international opportunity that we are engaged in as a club, and we've had a presentation about it a while back, and I think it's time to bring a representative from Shelterbox back in for a program. I think that should be one thing we should try. So Shelterbox USA was born in Cornwall, England, is headquartered in Cornwall, England, and they provide after a natural disaster or war or something terrible that wipes out people and they need new shelter, they provide these boxes. So the shelter box weighs about 60 pounds, costs about $1,000 US. They includes a tent, typically a very strong tent, one that can house 10 people for up to 6 months. Through all kinds of weather conditions, through snow and rain and flooding. There's flaps up the side. You can take 10 inches of water on the outside, stay dry inside. So it's a fantastic tent. And other essentials for carrying on. There's no food or anything. And this is other related agencies would be providing that piece. But this is a vital piece in recovery efforts all over the world. And again, part of the presentation, sometimes there's a huge jumbo jet that opens back, it's cargo jet, thousands of these are unloaded out back to a place. Sometimes there's 2 of them carrying the back of the mule's back up the mountain into this hot, mosquito-ridden place. And in that situation, they have a lightweight tent to include this mosquito netting. So they have warehouses all over the world ready to deploy as soon as an emergency situation hits. Fantastic organization. As a club, we have I guess it's a club, but as a committee, we have voted to become a hero with shelter box, which means we contribute $1,000 a year. And it's ongoing. So what we've done in the past, when there was an earthquake in Italy, and the response president said, hey, let's pass that, and let's see if we can contribute to shelter box for that relief effort. Well, the more I talk to them, I find out, by that time, those boxes are already gone. You can't really you can't say $100,000 for Italy, it doesn't work that way. So if we provide them with ongoing revenue, we can certainly predict better what they have to work with and can deploy. Bring this question. Future, new committee members and nuance. Meetings are on Mondays every few months, not they're kind of irregular because we only meet if we have something to talk about. We're going to stick to Monday evenings. And then the future. So August, this is last year's poster. We don't have it this year yet, but on August 5th, on Monday, at Beer Garden, we're going to repeat our success of last year with our Fight Club fundraiser. And all the money raised goes towards our international, 3 different international committees, and is allocated to projects that benefit children around the world. So we had 250 people last year. It was a really fun event. And I'm hoping that and this is a community event, it's not just a Rotary event, so we tap out our Rotary so much. We really want the community at large to come here, and we did last year, so I think it will be this year since we're reading. This question?
So a couple of last comments. First of all, congratulations to everybody in this club, because we're the real American ambassadors. What we do internationally reflects on the United States, and that is because you are here and are such generous contributors to this club. It's because of you. And then the second thing is to congratulate Shari. She has taken on this national committee and has done an amazing job of improving it over what any of us ever did before.
Time for questions?
For the Ryan Power Line. So when you say people here can help out, but I'm going to leave it.
Interact Club, and then I'm also going to tap into them. I've already been in touch with Megan for this event, the Brewster's event. So Interact, we want to do something, what can we do? And so we found a part of Ryan Power Line, they needed $600 to put this last panel on the school. And it was a specific goal, and they did it, they raised the money, and then they sent a check off. They knew they were raising that money for it, it's pretty cool. They want to be involved, it's nice.
I'm going to say mine. I see Joe just got his arm waving back and forth. You go first. I'll try to finish with the last one.
Shari, you've already been acknowledged for your great service. I want to make a point of thanking you for the most comprehensive, articulate, and cogent presentation on the subject of international service that we've ever had. Thank you.
Thank you. And I wanted to first give Shari, you probably have all these, but I think it's so appropriate for you. It's a wonderful Rotary camp, Children of the World, and this is you if anybody is. So thank you for all that you've done, and I wanted to give you a speaker. So a wonderful Bluetooth speaker for the speaker, and so whether it's RESPECT or Let Me Hold You Sweetheart, thank you for that. And my final question is, what I've been so impressed in is the quality of management, because, we are a club, but you collaborate with Joe and other clubs, clubs in the district. On some of these, like say the Roots of Peace, $200,000 project, and I think we're giving a little over $3,000. So, how do you find these projects? Is it mostly through the Houses of Friendship at the Rotary International, or we'll have like on May 17th and 19th, or you just kind of word of mouth, or how do you find these other great leaders you work with? Okay.
Yeah, so Rotary International, the district conference, chatting with other Rotarians, project fairs, which there's a couple in Africa, there's Central America, there's South America. That's another interesting experience.
But there's a lot of finances and other parts to make these things work, so sometimes the big projects are a couple of years, but the small projects, we just kind of do our own, is how it's mostly been working out. We have like $1,000, $2,000 project on some of these. Most of them, are you all pretty much going to global grants these days? I think we need the other microphone. This one doesn't seem to be working.
Okay, so the difference, I didn't get into district grants versus global grants. What I've been talking about here is global grants, which is all that criteria. District grants are a different situation.
Thank you.
And they can be they can be smaller, they can be 1,000 or 2,000, and need to be completed in 1 year. It could be international, it could be local, but it has to be in 1 year. So these global grants tend to span several years, sometimes several years in just getting them started, and then several years in implementation. You just never know, depending on, there's a lot of factors.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you, Shari and Ranney. And so here we go. Tomorrow, Farmers and Merchants Night. Hope to see you there. Come with your friends, your family, your loved ones. Saturday, we've got the district training conference and a lot of things coming up in the coming weeks, not the least of which is next Sunday, not this Sunday, is the grand opening for the Miracle League. So thanks to all you for Rotary. Have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.